U.S. incarcerates more of our population than any other nation on earth, while championing civil rights and liberty. Our goal is to deconstruct the power of the state through thoughtful, independent perspectives on our society. I am M. Jane.
And I'm Ty Bricker. Welcome to DeCarcerated Podcast, episode number 6.
Yep.
6. All right. Tonight, we're going to talk about Hunter Biden's plea deal. Yay. Just like everybody. That's normal. We're going to talk about a little bit about Ukraine. Okay. Some stuff that's popping up there that we really need to pay attention to. We're going to talk about religion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do some religion stuff.
So basically,
it's not a touchy subject
that
at
aren't
all.
touchy at all. Yeah.
Then we're going to end with our coward and hero of the week, as per normal, par for the course.
Mm-hmm.
So, remember that one time when we said that the law doesn't apply equally to everyone, that we live in an oligarchy, that there are multiple sets of rules for the elites and the peasants, that law enforcement, especially federal law enforcement, has been weaponized against the citizenry overtly, that criminal enrichment doesn't matter, that certain individuals within our society don't care, as long as their people, whether they're Republican or Democrat, are the ones being specially treated, or as I like to call it, the turning a blind eye tactic.
Mm-hmm.
That even though we, as a society, incarcerate more humans than any society on earth, our elite do not fall within that purview. Remember when I said all that stuff?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, obviously, none of it's true. Forget it. Just forget I said any of it.
Throw it away.
Okay. So when word came out about Hunter Biden's plea deal a few days ago, seemed totally normal. Seemed like a totally righteous, normal plea deal. Right on par for the course. Nothing to see. Just another plea deal in the criminal justice system that's taking place simultaneously with thousands or even possibly millions of other plea deals taking place almost at the exact same time all across the country. With that being said, I'll go ahead and lay out the facts of the case, and you guys can decide if you think it's shady or not. Hunter Biden is pleading guilty to 3 separate federal charges.
Is a federal charge automatically a felony?
No.
Okay.
It's
Just
not.
question.
Like if you work as a lot, for example, like if you work as a law enforcement officer, like Land Management Agency, BLM, Forest Service, U.S. Park Service, Fish and Wildlife, they're primarily writing Class B misdemeanor tickets.
Okay.
I mean, they're running felony cases. I mean, they're feds, you know, whether they're special agents or they're uniformed, which is like 1801 and 1811 series for anybody out there that doesn't know. So they absolutely deal with misdemeanors. They deal with misdemeanors all the time. So two tax misdemeanors. Willful failure to pay income tax, and this is over the last couple of years, and 1 count of possession of a firearm by a person who is an unlawful user of or addicted to a controlled substance. That, my friends, is a felony. The big F.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't mean Dallas. Gee, how do we know that he's a habitual drug user? I mean, the dude literally left his laptop at a Delaware repair shop and didn't return their calls to pick it up after they fixed it, which is why they dropped off. Sorry, we got dogs, people. This guy, man, like super duper not worried at all, even a little bit about getting in trouble. Or even worse, honestly, like as far as I'm concerned, he's not worried about getting people that are in his family in trouble. His father is like the president of the United States and was the vice president of the United States, and
he feels impervious.
Was, privileged.
Yeah.
And it's not, they're not special with this. This is Republican, Democrat families that are oligarchical lords, basically. Their entire families are like this. I mean, they obviously get tons of privilege. I mean, like the Obamas would be the same. The Bushes would be the same, There's
just no accountability.
As everyone now knows there's photographs all over his laptop that have been leaked all over the internet showing all of his stuff. All right. Butt ass naked, smoking crack with prostitutes all over his laptop. I mean, like, for those of you that don't know, if you haven't bought a firearm before in your life, and I mean, out of the 17 people listening to this podcast, I assume they're all on firearms, but let's just say you're somebody that accidentally listened to this podcast that doesn't own firearms. You know that on the firearms application, you have to write that. They ask you questions. Are you addicted to drugs? Do you use illegal substances? Like blah, 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 blah. He lied on it. He lied on the application and said he did not, when obviously he did. Okay. So, for those of you out there that don't know, cops, federal and state, use social media all the time. All the time. I used to.
As
when
like
I was
an
running
investigation
investigations.
tactic?
Yeah. All the time for investigations. Why do cops, federal and state, use social media in their investigations? Because people are stupid. I mean, stupid. Just like how Hunter Biden is stupid. People will post stuff on Facebook of them poaching freaking deer. No kidding. They'll put, you would be amazed what people are willing to put on the internet that could get them in trouble. Okay. Also, did I mention that we got all the way into this? We're like 5 minutes in. His plea deal was no jail. No jail time at all. 0 jail time at all for any of those charges, including the felony.
For willfully not paying income taxes, for lying on a firearm application.
Millions of dollars of income taxes. Millions of dollars. And a firearm felony.
Well, and evidence of solicitation of prostitution, which, however we feel about prostitution, is still illegal.
Exactly. And same thing with how you feel about whether or not, certain narcotics or certain substances should be illegal too, right? Depending how you feel about those things, it's kind of like, in a lot of ways, it's not even necessary. What really makes people upset is the double standard.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Like whether people are arguing the righteousness of the gun laws or the righteousness of drug laws or the righteousness of whether or not, if somebody were to so choose on their own accord to be a prostitute, whether or not that should be illegal is kind of like that's secondary, because what we're really talking about here is a double standard.
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
not talking about whether the legality issues necessarily. So I'm going to play a clip that's going to talk right to the one-way lizardness of this plea deal. So let me turn it up. And here we go.
This is actually from the Federalist. In 2021, fewer than 1% of cases filed by U.S. attorneys in federal court resulted in the kind of pretrial diversion offered to hunters. So fewer than 1% of cases. This is from Brett Tolman. He says, if hunters were a typical case, we would have expected a much more aggressive DOJ response. Mixing illegal drugs and firearms is usually a quick trip to the land of 5 or 7 year mandatory minimum sentences. And again, Hunter Biden is looking at probation.
And I think the real story.
Okay, so that's, listen, this is a felony, number one. Okay.
And he's on probation.
It's a gun crime, firearm crime, number two. What do we always hear about when it comes to the left and firearms?
But there needs to be stricter laws and a lot
Everything
more
needs to be right. Everything needs to be stricter.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be enforced harder.
Yep.
It needs to be much more difficult to purchase, keep firearms.
Much less leniency when you mess up, I guess.
Yep.
Yep.
How do you think they'd feel about lying on a firearm application?
They
How would they
wanna
feel
throw the
if
book at
you
somebody.
lied on a firearm application?
Well, that depends.
Let's say Melina went into a firearm shop and lied on a firearm application. Do you think that they would think that you should be like charged with the
Prosecuted.
crime and prosecuted in
Absolutely.
jail?
Yes. Because they would immediately question my motives too.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So 2 federal misdemeanors and a felony, and not just any felony, like we said, a gun felony, a firearm felony. Kind of like the whole turning a blind eye tactic again. So I was on Twitter and I was reading some stuff with this because it's comedy to me to watch
Infuriating to me.
people, and it's the same thing on the right, when they talk about Jared Kushner getting $2 billion from Saudi Arabia when I watch people on the right backpedal and like moon dance on why that's cool,
Yeah.
right?
As long
And
as
it's like
it's
the
not
same.
one of yours.
It's the same thing when with this kind of stuff on the left. It's like watching all these lefties on Twitter moon dance and sidestep like a firearms prosecution when they are, especially in today's day and age, that is, I mean, like abortion and firearms on the left that's huge.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So here's a few tweets I just pulled out, and these are just random people. They're not like super famous people. This is all kind of new, and there's probably more out there right now, I guess, if I were to look at it right now.
But who are these people?
They're just people that are responding on Twitter to the news of Hunter Biden's plea deal. And so, here's a quote here from a guy who had I won't say his name, but he had a rainbow thing and like a Care Bear and some other stuff. And he said, "Funny what happens when you actually have a real lawyer and take responsibility for your actions." So I guess if you have a real lawyer and you take responsibility for your actions, it's okay to lie on a gun application. Just like people that are like in South Chicago that are black that lie on gun applications and don't go to jail and get plea deals where they don't get any jail time.
I don't even understand.
It's the same thing, right?
What
just got to get a good lawyer, be
do
honest,
with it? Like,
and take responsibility. Just take responsibility for your actions.
I think responsibility should have happened a long time ago, like not lying.
Yeah. So there's one. Here's another one. Don't forget that the cult, referring to Republicans, thinks there should be no laws related to guns and that the IRS should be abolished. Again, we're missing the point here.
Yeah.
Like,
by a mile.
Like, that's not what the argument is. Okay. It's like people, it's like the people that say that Trump was elected because people actually believed that he would be a really good Republican politician. A lot of the people that voted for Trump were just sick of the establishment Washington bullshit. It wasn't even necessarily what he said or what he believed as much as it was the fact that he was not them. And he hasn't been there for 40 or 50 years, like Pelosi or McConnell, right? Or Biden or all these other people that are oligarchs within DC. I mean, I would say that out of all the people that I knew that voted for Trump, that's really why they voted for him. It wasn't really his policies. It was because he was not part of that clique.
Yeah. And
he told Jeb Bush, Lion Jeb, right? Ted Cruz, like he took it to the Republicans, the establishment Republicans, just as hard as he took it to the establishment Democrats. And people liked that. Mm-hmm. So it's like you're missing the point here a little bit. Here's another one. Republicans who not only oppose stronger gun laws, but in fact have been weakening gun laws for decades, are now upset that a U.S. citizen didn't face a severe penalty for an unregistered gun. First of all, it wasn't an unregistered gun. He lied on a fucking gun application. Yeah. He lied on the application to begin with. It wasn't because it was unregistered. People don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. Okay? But this one's probably my favorite. And the reason it's my favorite is because it's spot on and it's sad. Like it's sad, but it's absolutely true. And you can pretend like it's not all you want, but it's 100% true. Okay, this is it. Happy Juneteenth Day, where black men across the nation are jailed for 10 plus years for weapons and drug charges, and a Democrat president's son is getting a no jail plea deal. If you were in Watts, Brooklyn, South Chicago, inner city Miami, you tell me what United States attorney or what district attorney is going to offer a no jail plea deal to some minority Cuban, Hispanic, African American, or trailer hood crash honky in Kentucky. They're going to bury their ass under the jail, and especially if they're in a blue community, because you lied on a gun application.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so true. This is exactly but the problem is this is really what it comes down to. And this is the double standard hypocrisy that we're talking about here, people. This is what we should be talking about. We shouldn't be talking about the fact that he got a sweet deal and he had a great lawyer and like all this other nonsense that they're talking. What we should be talking about, and it shouldn't freaking matter whether there's an R or a D in front of them, is the hypocrisy and the clear overt double standard that's in play here.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what it is. And we're just supposed to pretend in the land of make-believe and the Wizard of Oz and Narnia that this shit, that we shouldn't care about it.
Yeah. Like
we shouldn't just look the other way, people. Don't worry about it. Especially if you're on the right. Okay. Like I said, so what's happening with the charges? For the felony gun charge, it looks like what he's going to have to do to get that dismissed. And I don't know if it's a deferred judgment, which would also mean that it would be completely cleared off of his record, like it had never happened ever. And I would be honestly, I'd be surprised if it's not a deferred judgment. I think that his record is going to be crystal clean in 12 to 24 months from now. It looks like he has to complete some courses, some educational courses.
Because
Got to do some educational courses online about your gun application and your firearms and your prostitution use and your crack with your guns.
Did you know that a multiple choice quiz can resolve all of those issues for you behaviorally?
Yeah. Hey, community service.
You can print out your certificate.
Little community service.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really, really doubt that he knows people being a Biden that would just sign off his community service hours.
No, that'd be impossible.
No, I'm sure he'll do every single one of them.
Somebody will make a company for him to volunteer at just to sign off.
And just like that, boom.
Free.
Felony gone. Felony gone, people. Just like it would be for the rest of us. It matters not.
That's awful.
Good for him.
No.
All right, what about the misdemeanor tax charges? Okay, first of all, he owed $2 million to the IRS. $2 million. Okay. So let's do a little math here, shall we? If he's paying a 30% tax on what he made, and he paid a couple million, well, we'll find out. He paid a couple $1 million over that 2 years. So what did he make during that time to get charged the $2 million? So look, it's I mean, just using math over the few years and what he paid at 30%, it's $6.5–7 million right in there.
But that's income that
he's
reporting.
Declared. That's income he's declared and reported. Yeah. And like we said, for those of you that didn't listen to our last podcast, and I'll get into this a little bit, right? We'll get into this a little bit. That's the declared income. Okay.
That doesn't include all of his ridiculous gifts and off the book stuff.
So if you didn't listen last week, we'll get into that a little bit really quick. So that's declared income, $6.5–7 million over the last few years, $2 million. Okay. On our last episode, we documented how he received $50,000 a month from a Ukrainian energy firm for being on their board. $50,000 a month for being on a Ukrainian energy firm board, right?
Wait, was that his only source of income?
No, there's lots of other stuff here.
And how come that wasn't reported?
And we talked about it last week. So there's that. And I can't say whether that was reported or not. I don't know. But I $50,000 a month from the Ukrainian energy firm, and that dates back from when his dad was the VP. So that's like a while ago. He also got a 2.8 carat diamond as a gift. 2.8 carat diamond, which is valued usually around what, $60,000 to $80,000, what we talked about. Good, bad, around $6,000 to $8,000.
We solved it. We wondered last week why somebody would give him a diamond. What a strange, weirdly romantic gift. Oh, wait, probably because you don't have to claim it on your taxes.
Don't have to claim it. Okay, yeah, and
crazy.
He received him and his uncle, who's President Biden's brother.
Mm-hmm.
So Hunter and his uncle received 4.8, let's call it $5 million.
Yep.
Received $5 million from a Chinese energy firm. Okay. Oh, and that 2.8 carat diamond was from the Chinese energy firm, not the Ukrainian people. So I guess, that needs to be said. But that's not the shadiest part about this that we're getting into when it comes to this. It keeps going, people, and it's just coming out, and it's getting even like more here happening. Okay. This is like, what the so basically Guess who paid Hunter Biden's tax bill to the IRS? It wasn't Hunter. With all this money and stuff that he's making and all this stuff that he has access to, he didn't pay his $2 million tax bill to the IRS. A Hollywood lawyer who is friends with his old man paid Hunter Biden's $2 million IRS debt. A Hollywood lawyer.
What does that have to do with anybody?
Paid Hunter Biden's $2 million debt to the IRS.
Why?
To make sure that he wouldn't. I mean, who knows? This is all just happening. You don't have any Hollywood lawyers that paid $2 million to the IRS?
No, they're not. I don't have any of them.
You don't have a Chinese energy company that give you a 3-carat diamond?
Such a loser.
Saudi Arabia isn't writing you checks for billions of dollars for your new investment
They
firm?
could write them, but they wouldn't let me cash them.
Write you a check. I'll pay the whole son of a bitch off right now.
Was this his friend?
That was his dad's friend.
You mean our president? Our
Oh, yeah.
president's friend?
The
Our
elected,
president's friend that
POTUS,
paid off his
big guy.
son's
The big guy, man.
tax arrears?
The big guy. The big guy. This dude's got the best gig ever, seriously, Hunter. I mean, he's getting paid an extraordinary amount of money consistently by international institutions. Some he can claim, some he doesn't have to. He's getting diamonds, banging hookers, doing blow, smoking crack, all on camera. And then your pop's buddy pays your $2 million tax bill to the IRS so you don't go to jail over that and it's taken care of. I mean, can't go wrong with that.
Can see why he needs all that money, though. Lots of those things are expensive.
Yeah, and on top of all the money and shit, he's not going to serve a day even in a county jail. Even in a county jail.
What is the reasoning behind that?
You know what happens? That like I was a cop for like 10 years, federal almost. Okay, so I mean, I have seen people spend 30 days, 60 days, 90 days in jail for deferred judgment misdemeanors.
What about that one fella that
For nonviolent deferred judgment misdemeanors.
remember one guy that we were helping in there?
Mm-hmm.
And his
6,
crime
8, 7
was
months?
that he was startled by a police officer while sleeping in a vehicle avoiding domestic violence.
Yeah.
And he was
spent
startled,
7 months.
Pushed the gas, and was languishing in there for 7 months with nobody knowing anything or giving a crap about him.
Yep.
And he's a nice dude.
Yeah, and I'll say it, Routt County Jail. Routt County, Colorado.
It's awful.
Yep.
Like, there's nothing.
Like we had to get in there. Because he was sentenced to go to a rehabilitation center outside of Grand Junction.
That nobody looked at whether or not they had beds.
And they freaking just dropped it.
Mhm.
And then everybody at the jail's like, I don't know what we're doing with him. DA's like, I don't know what we're doing with him. His public public
was
defender.
following him, but she didn't know what to do with
They
him.
didn't know what to
either.
do with him. Like
Yeah.
families all in. Where was all of his family? Like Louisiana,
The
Missouri,
Midwest.
Midwest.
Yeah.
It's like he's just sitting in jail, has no idea what to do, has no idea how to get out. 7 freaking months. Just forget about it. And here's this asshole.
Walks free.
Felony gun charge. Doesn't spend a day in county. Doesn't get booked, fingerprinted,
Nothing.
pictured. And for any of you out there that have been booked, fingerprinted, pictured, and then just had your shit dismissed, or even took a plea deal or whatever, like going in there and having that done is one of the most like humbling, shitty experiences that you
It's
could possibly
dehumanizing.
freaking have.
You're
ever.
being cataloged.
And this guy didn't even have to do that. Okay. Listen, the kids of kings and queens play by a different set of rules. That's it. And that's all. And like I said before, the same goes for Trump's kids. Okay. I'll say it. The same. Jared Kushner got freaking $2 billion with a B dollars from Saudi Arabia, who's one of the biggest human rights violators on the freaking planet, for his investment firm. It's everywhere.
It sounds like a pretend thing.
It's everywhere, everywhere. And it's incredibly sad because if this happened to my kid, if this happened to one of my kids, if this happened to one of your kids out there, you out there right now, if you have a kid and this happened to your kid, he'd be in jail right now. And you would be trying to figure out how to get him out and how you could financially afford to get him out.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to move over to Ukraine really quick. I'm going to talk about a few things with this. Man,
I get really mad.
I
I'm
get
really
so mad about
angry.
it's so unjust.
It's so unjust.
It's just so overtly, intentionally. We don't give a fuck about how you guys think
Yes.
unjust.
Yeah.
Like
We're idiots.
Yeah.
Like we don't see it. Like we're not impacted. Like families don't lose their dads every single day.
brothers, dads,
Brothers,
yeah.
children, and it is predominantly males, and it is predominantly minorities, and it is predominantly almost exclusively people living in poverty, just trying to get by.
Mhm.
And it is this just overwhelming sense of injustice. And it loosely translates
Mhm.
to I cannot abide rudeness in a person. And
Yep.
but it's a
It's
system
true.
that is propagated by a lack of compassion and
Mhm.
injustice.
Mhm.
And it just
Oh man, I want to do Captain Cole on people all the time. For all those out there, I haven't seen Lonesome Dove when Captain Cole took that army officer with a pair of snipping pliers from a
and a
farrier,
whip, right?
yeah, and beat his ass almost to death with them, and said,
Yep.
"Can't abide rudeness in a man."
Yep.
I mean, that's what we're talking about here. Like
Yep.
all of society
100%.
is getting that fed up with this crap. I
And-
mean, that's the
yeah.
reason why RFK Jr. is pulling at 20%.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like that's the reason that Trump is still somehow in the game.
Yeah.
Like it's like we don't know what to do. People don't know what to do,
We don't know what to do, but we know it's not this.
but we know that this is wrong.
Yeah.
We just know that this is innately and overtly and covertly not how it's supposed to be, at least in this society.
Yep.
And people are starting to come to terms with it more and more and more, especially
Yeah.
people that are supporting families, paying mortgages, paying taxes, like trying to do the right thing, putting gas in their
Yes.
truck, paying their mortgage, like doing all this stuff, taking their kids to freaking baseball and sporting events and paying the
Working
money
on a
that it takes,
ranch
working on
all
a
day
ranch
long, 7 days a week,
Mhm.
driving an hour plus
one way
one way
to take their kids
to
to a
take
1 hour
their kids
little
to
league
a-
baseball game.
to a little league baseball game where they've already paid for it.
Mhm.
And they're going and they're watching their kids and they're exhausted. And then they're thinking, I really hope that we don't go under because we're still looking at
And what would happen if a sheriff pulled them over and they were going 12 over the limit when they were heading back home on their hour and a half drive back home?
Fortunately for us, it wouldn't be the sheriff probably here, but it would be Stadies. And they would.
I mean, it's like we don't get off. We don't get
No.
like we're just like, hey, like you're barely making your mortgage. You're barely putting gas in your tank. You're barely putting
Sorry, you
food on the
wanted to be
table.
on time to your kid's game.
Here's your $150
Yep.
ticket. Tough
Yep.
shit. Sorry.
If you want, you can go in a month and then just sit there and listen to a ridiculous transactional encounter with a judge that will go, hey, instead of you going 12 over because you showed up today, I'll make it 6 over. And it'll be a lesser fine. You just have to plead guilty.
And just give the county some more money
And give the county more. And I'm
because
like,
they need the money more than we do.
I'm thinking, this doesn't have anything to do with speeding.
No.
This is just money. You're just negotiating with me like we're bartering at a flea market. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. I recently got a speeding ticket. You can tell.
Yeah, this is true.
You go.
All right, all
Let's talk
right.
about bombs.
Yeah, here we go. Ukraine in the bomb. All right. Okay, we know that we've sent around $50 billion so far to Ukraine. What do you think like $1 billion would do to South Chicago or Watts, Los Angeles? You think $1 billion
Especially if you gave it to the people
would
that are
make
doing
that
good
community
there. Yeah.
like could you rebuild an entire community in inner city with $1 billion
100%.
and then make people like have good jobs, good education, good schools,
100%.
like safer areas, like opportunity? No,
Oh yeah.
let's send those $1 billion overseas. So we sent $50 billion to Ukraine so far. Abrams tank, more than that actually. Abrams tanks, small arms, munitions, F-16s, advisors, or let's just say American boots on the ground
Specialists.
because we have American boots on the ground.
Okay.
Additionally, Ukraine now, and this is new, is fixing to get fast-tracked in NATO, possibly. That's the latest, which by default, honestly, via Article 5 of NATO, would theoretically put us at war with Russia immediately. I mean, like the day that that's signed. I mean, that's Article 5. I mean, an attack on one NATO country is an attack on all NATO countries. And if Ukraine becomes a NATO country and Ukraine is at war with Russia, theoretically, Article 5 is invoked, and that would put NATO at war with Russia. All of NATO. Listen, the Baltic states have nothing to lose. Nothing. Of course they want to join NATO. If I was a Baltic state, I would want to join NATO. I get it. I've said this before. I understand. All right. But what do we, as in the United States, we pay all of their bills.
Yeah.
They don't pay shit. Germany isn't paying for their war. Poland isn't paying for their war. England isn't paying for their war. France isn't paying for their war. Canada isn't paying for the war. You know who's paying for the war? You're paying for the war. You, right there. All of you guys with your getting your Class B misdemeanor speeding tickets. You guys are the ones paying for the war. You guys are. All right. I mean, what the hell does the U.S. gain from going to war with a nuclear power like Russia? Probably immediately followed by China, who hasn't been in a conflict since the Korean War, and we have no idea what their capabilities are. Any of you out there that think you have an idea what China's capabilities are, you're fooling yourself. There are people out there that probably do, but it's a very, very, very select few people that do. But we have not seen what they're capable of since before Vietnam.
You're telling me that China, communist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Communist China?
They like to kind of say they're a democracy, but they're
They
like
do?
Yeah.
Okay. So that country with enormous human rights violations, like a litany of other issues, they've been able to abstain from war like far longer than we have?
Actually, they're really prominent in trying to broker peace right now between Ukraine and Russia, way more than we are.
I bet they see the writing on the wall, though.
We're sending a ton of money, troops, munitions, all this other stuff to Ukraine. China's actually trying to broker peace deals.
I think when
It's
China
kinda
is the
interesting.
logical voice in the room, we have a problem with our like moral ethos.
Yeah, I don't know about logical, but they obviously have other things going on.
Don't kill people. Don't start World War III.
That's true. Well, they
logical.
kill a lot of people,
Don't.
of their own people.
That's fair. Don't
I mean,
kill
people
people
are
that we make
jumping-
money from.
Like people are jumping, like building Apple phones, jumping out of skyscrapers, like
They're
committing
putting nets
suicide, and they put
underneath.
nets underneath the skyscrapers to catch all the suiciders. Because that many people jump. I mean, could you imagine like walking around downtown Seattle or Denver or Washington and seeing skyscrapers with nets on the bottom of them because so many people are jumping to their deaths?
We put nets on the bottom of the Golden Gate Bridge.
All right, so let's take a look. Do we put nets at the bottom of the Golden Gate?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I know that a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
All right.
We're not going to address your mental health issues. We'll just keep you from dying.
So let's take a look at all the NATO countries currently right now that are around Russia. Okay, and this is relevant. So these are just countries that we're going to say are bordering Russia. All right. So Finland is new. They just got accepted. Brand new. Bordering Russia. Boom, on there. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and then you go Belarus and Ukraine. All right. Ukraine's about ready to get fast-tracked into NATO, possibly. All right. And then you go down into Turkey. Now, right behind Ukraine and Belarus, everything is NATO. Everything. You have Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, Greece, Albania, Malta, North Macedonia, Montenegro, Macedonia, Italy, Croatia, Slovenia, Czech Republic, Germany, UK, Iceland, Norway, Denmark, Netherlands, France, Spain, Portugal. These are all NATO countries. And these are all directly west of Russia. And these countries, a lot of them are nuclear powers. So, let me see where I'm at here. Also, and this is important for those of you that don't know, all right? When NATO and everything was starting, we told Russia that we were not going to expand NATO. We told them that. We overtly told them that we were not going to expand NATO because they told us that if we expanded NATO, it would be perceived as a threat.
How do we have control over that, though? Don't countries get to elect themselves?
Yeah, but we're part of the top five. We decide, like us.
So we were just saying we're never going to include anybody else just to appease Russia, and then we lied about it.
No. Well, up on Russia's borders.
Okay.
Okay.
That's not fair to those countries, though.
Right. I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you that it's not fair to those countries. Okay. And like I said, just because one thing is right doesn't mean that something else is wrong. And just because something's wrong doesn't mean the other thing's right. Things can be both right at the same time, and things can be both wrong at the same time. Like I said, if I was in Ukraine, I get it. I feel it. If I was in Ukraine, I'd be fighting 100%, 100% be fighting. probably. And I'd be wanting everybody in the entire world to come fight with me. For sure. I'd want your money, your people, your guns.
Your support,
Give me everything you got, your support, bring them all in. I get it. Okay. But I'm in Colorado and I got 5 kids, right? And I got my own stuff I got to think about here. Like, we got a lot of other stuff going on. I'm not Ukrainian. So, like I said, just because something's right doesn't necessarily mean the other thing's wrong. Like, I understand it. I do. Okay. But we have to talk about what is. All right. As we sit here today, there are nuclear NATO countries right on the border with Russia. Like I said, literally, like with nukes that just like that could be right in Russia. All right. How does Russia see this? Probably the same way, honestly, that we would see it if Russia put nukes in Canada or Mexico or Cuba or the Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if Russia put nuclear weapons in any of these places around the United States, I mean, what the hell would the U.S. do?
Immediately.
If
Immediate
Russia,
response.
China, North Korea put megaton nuclear warheads on our borders, people like, we would put boot to ass immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. And we would have every freaking right to do so. Like, we would have every right to do it. It's a tricky spot, man. It's a tricky spot. Okay. But what we have to ask ourselves is where this is leading. Is we have to see the forest through the trees here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I understand the justness. All right. But we're talking about nuclear power. We're talking about reverting us back to the Stone Age. And that's not a hypothetical. That's 100% possible.
Yeah.
Okay. Tactical nukes. I mean, Russia is now talking about implementing tactical nukes. They're overtly talking about like backpack nukes.
That's the peeing section of a swimming pool.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it sounds pretty precision-ish. Tactical nuke.
It's tactical like a sneeze.
I'm gonna pop this grenade. I mean, they got like a 5-meter kill radius.
It'll be fine.
Good to go in that little
We'll do
area.
a warning-
little bit of
a warning
fallout,
shot
not a
in the
whole lot of
cornfield.
fallout. No big deal. All right, so let's take a quick deep dive into this, into nuclear power and what nuclear power really means. Okay, for those of you that don't necessarily know out there, you might really want to listen to this because it might surprise you. All right, tactical nukes have a power of around 15 kilotons. 15 kilotons. Okay.
I'm American. How many eagles is that? Sorry.
Yeah. It's lots of eagles.
It's lots of eagles.
It's like a whole bunch. Not enough, though. So, the Hiroshima bomb. Do you know how much the Hiroshima bomb was? Just say it if you know. It's okay. It was exactly that. 15 kilotons.
15 kilotons.
15 kilotons. So, when we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, it was 15 kilotons. And we smoked a city with like hundreds of thousands. Nagasaki. How big was the bomb that we dropped on Nagasaki a few days
25.
after Hiroshima? 25 kilotons. 10 kilotons more than Hiroshima.
Is Hiroshima the one where their shadows were burned into the walls?
Well, I think it's probably both of them, I would assume. I mean, so you have Hiroshima, 15 kilotons. Nagasaki, 25 kiloton grade. Okay? I'd say that those bombs did what they were designed to do, right?
It's not just the immediate impact, though. It's the psychological, it's the physical, the developmental fallout from that. That's not, it's the environmental fallout from that. Like you will lose crops, you will lose grow days for all of those agricultural products. You will lose health for all of the people that are there. The soil will be contaminated for years and years and years. Look at Chernobyl. Mm-hmm. It's still empty swings and creepy dolls. Like nothing is there.
Nothing. Like not even that many people died in Chernobyl. It was really the responders that came in.
Well, they also didn't warn any of the people who lived around there for a long time. But
no,
like the aftermath is far worse than the initial impact because it's going to affect more people.
It's kind of like if you think about like an asteroid hitting the Earth, right?
Yes.
If an asteroid hits the Earth, you have the immediate impact area, you have the immediate fallout. There's going to be a whole lot of death and destruction in that immediate kill zone. Okay. Mm-hmm. But then for years, you're going to be dealing with debris blocking out the sun. Yeah. You're not going to be able to grow anything.
Oh, but hold on. We've got really great supply chains, right? That don't ever get disrupted with even like momentary interruption.
No.
Oh,
yeah,
darn.
Definitely. We're definitely super good on that. So how many kilotons makes 1 megaton?
100.
100. Takes 100 kilotons to make a single megaton nuclear warhead. 100 kilotons, 1 megaton. So think about that, right? Hiroshima, 15 kilotons. Nagasaki, 25 kilotons. 100 kilotons, 1 megaton. Okay, what does that mean? In 1960, Russia detonated a nuclear warhead they named the Tsar bomb. Okay, the yield, 50 megatons. 50 megatons. Okay, that was the yield. Literally, and my numbers could be off here, it's like 200 times more than what Hiroshima and Nagasaki were. 200 times. And that's one single 50 megaton nuclear warhead. And here's the thing.
That's like
they're way bigger than that. They actually dropped that yield on that bomb. So that bomb that they blew that was 50 megatons, they were worried that it was going to like destroy the planet. So they dropped the yield from 100 megatons to 50 megatons. And that's the last megaton warhead that's been detonated on the planet, was that one. And it was out like in the middle of like nothing.
Siberia,
nowhere.
kind of.
There was nothing out there at all. You can find videos of this sucker. I mean, it's 50 megatons, and they had it cut in half from what it was originally was 100 megatons. So
oh my God.
Yeah. So when we talk about nuclear warfare, we're not talking about warfare. Nuclear warfare is not warfare. It's not. We're talking about the end of the world, the zombie apocalypse. Like, that's it, man. Sayonara. Survivors, to which there would be few, would represent our lost civilization. We would become the lost civilization. Once, if civilization gets reestablished, maybe 1,000 years from now. Yeah. Seriously, no joke. Okay. For those of you out there thinking that potential nuclear war involving countries that have countless 50 plus megaton nuclear warheads isn't really all that much to concern ourselves with, well, maybe someday people will once again be writing on stone tablets depicting the end of our civilization 1,000 years from now, and people will be talking about us.
They're going to be like,
when there's a new civilization,
mushroom shapes on here. It's the weirdest thing. Everywhere we look, there's mushroom shapes.
It's like, are they trying to warn us or something?
Yeah, it's so weird.
It's kind of like all the stuff you see now in like what's that in
like
South America. Yeah, where you have what's that place in Turkey?
Göbekli
Tepe. And there's all these places now where you're finding all these astronomical signs that line up to like pre-ice age civilizations, warning about like snakes in the sky, and they're talking about comets and asteroids.
Exactly.
During the Younger Dryas.
Like silly old stupid people.
What do they know about things?
They're like, it's the end of the world.
They're all just hunter-gatherer idiots.
These stone tools.
So this was 1960. They had 100 megaton nuclear warhead in 1960. How long ago was 1960?
It's forever ago. It might as well. It's like 80 years. Is that right?
70, 80, 90. And it's like 63 years. That's a long time.
Is it?
Is it 63?
That's all right. We'll go past it.
Yeah,
it's less
70,
than 100.
80, 90, 2000, 2010,
but more than 50.
2020. Yeah, it's like 63 years. I don't know. I'm second guessing.
It was.
But it's like, think about, so like I'm 42.
Yep.
So almost double my lifetime ago, they had a 100 megaton nuclear warhead.
Yeah.
20 years before I was born. I was born in 1980. So 20 years before I was born, Russia had a 100 megaton nuclear warhead. I mean, do we think we have any idea what China has, what Russia has, what we have?
The fact that China is trying to broker a peace deal, I feel like means that they know if everything goes hot and they have to align with Russia, they're going to blow up the planet.
Do you think like if they tactically nuke a spot in Poland,
you can't tactically nuke anything.
That's a 15 kiloton yield. That's not going to set off a series of catastrophic events. I mean, like,
it will.
People won't have a clue. There'll be people living over in Indonesia.
Yep.
Or hunter-gatherers in the Amazon, and they're going to be like, something weird's happening. I don't know what's going on out there.
Good thing we know how to get our own food.
Don't know what's going on out there.
Yep.
All right, I'm done. It's up to you, babe.
Well, I'm going to talk about something really light and refreshing.
Like religion?
Like religion. Yep. All right. So today, I want to talk a little about religion. And as I thought this out, I realized how much politics have become like religion. So when you think about my words, feel free to replace religion with politics at any time. So religion seems to be a deciding factor, particularly of late, but historically always, in highly contentious scenarios like Roe v. Wade and a national ban on abortion, even guns for some reason. But in reality, Americans are apparently becoming less and less religious nationwide, according to some statistics. But you know what Mark Twain said? There are lies, families, and statistics. I love Mark Twain, even though he didn't love Jane Austen, two of my favorite authors.
Mark Twain didn't go to Epstein's Island.
It's a low bar we've got set for people. All right.
Did you go to Epstein's Island?
No.
Yes
Oh,
or no?
God, you're a saint. All right. So I actually don't think religion is declining. I was looking at quite a bit of data, and how we define religion is kind of wonky, right? So you can have religion defined as, do you have membership at a place of worship? That's dramatically different to, do you align with a specific ideology? That's totally different. So I don't think religion is declining.
I feel like most people just go to church. I don't like card-carrying members of a church.
Sometimes do you remember what Troy said about that pastor at that one Catholic church? He wanted to baptize somebody that wanted to be baptized, and that person was like, are you a member?
Oh yeah, that's part for the like Baptist, Catholic, Protestant. Postmodern Christianity, they're pushing away from that. But a lot of that old school
That's
stuff,
true,
yeah.
but that's exactly my point.
There we go.
That's exactly my point. I don't think religion is actually declining. I think it's the term that we are avoiding. And that's because we don't trust major religions or other major institutions that have harmed us, persecuted us, and used us to push policies and propaganda. Legitimately so. And as someone who has swung back and forth from devout to atheistic and back again, I have.
Okay.
I've swung back and forth, devout, atheistic, and then eventually, like a pendulum, you end up in the middle. I think, are you teasing me right now?
Definitely not.
I think it's important that we redefine what we call religion. So religion is a strange and important thing. And its cycles of rise, sustained livelihood, deconstruction, and demise, there are epochs of great insight and great desecration to the human condition. So there's no doubt that faith views comprise our most distinct ways of being and knowing, which is just to be alive, right, and conscious. And all people have a view of faith. There's a tongue-in-cheek attempt at like kind of not great Americanized Christian humor. I heard this a lot growing up, in which believers chuckle at atheists and murmur, well, they must have a lot of faith that they're right. As though like a simple belligerent adherence to belief systems is the primary driver for salvation and eternal life.
Yep.
So religion begins always as an agreement of belief. Unspoken initially, belief becomes habit, then ritual, then dogma. At each event, there are thousands of indicators as to why something is believed. But the why is lost in the layer upon layer of a protective coating, covering the why as to like kind of preserve it. At its best, religion's a method of safety, practice, and community. At its worst, it's the nasty sword in which people cut down their fellow human beings, wage wars, crusades, burn people alive, oppress the voiceless, take deep offense, even deeper entitlements, and ultimately act out their most vile of fear responses on others. Crucifixion, anyone?
Yeah.
Yep. Remember that in Good Omens? They're looking at Jesus. What would he do? Oh, he said to be good to one another. That'll do it.
Right. Yeah. I think most Catholics in the Middle Ages wouldn't have liked it. He said that.
Nope. I could see you as a matured Catholically raised boy. Look at that. Nope. I don't like that. At the root of most individually held beliefs lies the duplicitousness of fear. So fear is both the motivator and the hindrance. It's a very interesting concept. It's anxiety, but it also requires imagination. Two assets to every human surviving and creating in a world filled with unlimited stimuli. I often think of Amara. She's like so imaginative and so anxious. And it just, that's fear, because if you are unaware of what is potentially, like what could potentially occur, then you're not afraid of it, because it's like, you don't even think about it. Yeah, she's imagining it hitting her. She's imagining it. It's already happened. Yep, exactly. So how incredible that we are host to a consciousness hungry for overwhelming information, thirsty for ideas, and fat with desire to understand. That's a good thing. Religion and faith expression are the core scripts of understanding the consciousness. It's informal psychology. And these act as the bridge between our physical and our spiritual form. It's actually that Greek word telos, right? Mm-hmm. I love that word. So no wonder this existence is full of doubt and pain. It's always negotiating with itself and the world around it. We have the honor and panic of realizing that we are spinning through space. We meet that knowledge on a spectrum.
And we're on a rock going 65,000 miles an hour through outer space.
Yes, you are a ghost piloting a meat skeleton on a rock hurling through space.
Boom.
That's who you are.
True.
We meet this knowledge on that spectrum, though, ranging from hiding away and aiming for the moon. Look at humanity. We have people that will be on hoarders that pee and poop in jars and surround themselves with newspapers and cats. Mm-hmm. And we have people going, I'd like to be the first one to go to Mars.
Yep.
Perhaps to get away from that person that's pooping in jars, but also like,
absolutely.
It's a huge spectrum.
We have hunter-gatherers all across the world right now
Mm-hmm.
that are Stone Age hunter-gatherers.
Mm-hmm.
While we have a postmodern industrial capitalistic society built around the Greek ideals of republic and democracy.
Yep.
And there's people down in the Amazon and other parts of Africa and other places that couldn't tell you what an airplane is.
Yeah. Although I'd love to measure the relative happiness levels.
They would probably also survive the nuclear war too.
That's true.
Because they would be able to somehow take care of themselves and theirs, as long as the fallout didn't kill them.
That's true.
We'd be the ones that'd be dead.
Oh, exactly. And we've talked about that before. Inner cities first to crumble. Mm-hmm. It's scarcity of resources. Yeah. So we all do have our preferred religious worldview. It changes, and this can be expected in the same way we acquire knowledge. We observe, relate, experience, evaluate, and observe once more. This is a cyclical process that has different terminology for like education or for healing or treatment or whatever. It's the same cycle. Our worldviews through our faith setting are outlined by those responsible parties in our formative years. So when we have little prior knowledge and are navigating ourselves within our external environments and our internal need for love and acceptance and safety. I remember talking to Papa once about the kids and like, oh, will this be unusual or weird? And he had said, a dinosaur could walk through the room at this point and they wouldn't know it wasn't natural. I was like, well, it's true. Kids don't know anything. Right?
So true.
So we are driven by that, though. Love, acceptance, and safety. Those are our formative developmental needs. Mm-hmm. And when I hear people refer to themselves as recovering fundamentalists, I feel a deeply understood sympathy that religiosity does not serve anyone unless it is rooted in love and it's flexible in structure.
Correct.
Which ironically means that it's not mainstream religion anymore. Yeah. So what possible good is religion or faith anyway? It is of value. It always has been. Religion is the general structure on which we hang our lives, and faith is that gentle adjustment and support when areas feel weak or tired. Routine and shared habits are the connective tissues of societies. To dismiss the spiritual elements of human beings is to utterly dismantle how we see, relate to, shape, and exist within our relationships, communities, nations, our planet. As usual, however, fear derails us. We have slipped into our hyper-focus on the thing, and we've missed the vital side effects of it, passing things like meaning off as ancillary. This is just like you were talking about when we're talking about Hunter Biden somehow people are like quantifying why it's okay he was completely let off the hook.
Yep.
That's not the point. The lawyer's not the point. The gun control law is not the point. The point is that there is a double standard and we are
Just like it is
missing
with
it.
Trump kids.
Exactly.
Just like it is with his kids.
For everyone.
Mhm.
If we are going to say law and order, then we have to have equitably applied law and order, regardless of who you are.
Yep.
So I think of actually group projects. So that law and order and equitable application of justice, when I was teaching and we did group projects, they had to grade them like each other. So I would randomly assign groups. Nobody got to choose friends. We would count off often because everyone sits with their friends. So if you count off by groups like 1, 2, 3, 4, they are with their friends, which is great.
Mhm.
And they would have to grade each other. That was the accountability piece. Your grade is based off of what your group thinks.
Yep.
And so I see religion similarly. Religion's a group project. So let's go back to those school days, particularly high school, college. When a group project is met almost across the board with groans, internal or external, as each person is preparing for the work by assessing who they are in relation to the group, right? So perhaps you were the person that was internally grimacing at having to speak up and communicate with unknown peers, or maybe you were the one that was stressing because you knew you were going to be the one that's driving all the work to be done. You had to constantly determine your identity within the group, negotiate every interaction, and express through either inaction or action within the group dynamic, your identity. That's religion.
Mhm.
And it's politics as well. It's wokeism even. It's right, it's left, it's fealty to a specific ideology. You're constantly determining your identity within this group, negotiating every interaction. So as religion expands, routines and practices that are essential to transmit ways of being, thinking, feeling, and relating to the world spread to ways of being, and rituals must be followed to produce the byproduct of group belonging. So, I mean, in a nutshell, if you don't do what's expected of you as your identity in the group, you risk exclusion. And the only thing a tribalistic human society fears more than anything is being out in the cold.
Absolutely.
So,
It's like, why is solitary confinement so terrible?
because it's completely inhumane.
Because you're solitary.
You are alone
Mhm.
and you lose your marbles.
For an indefinite amount of time.
Yep. Because your identity is formed and maintained through your interactions in your daily life. So culturally transmitted ideas are done through like those ritualistic behaviors, and this preserves the unity of the group. Religion is a deeply enmeshed cultural identity to most communities. I mean, a lot of religions even dictate what you eat,
Mhm.
which dictates
Pork.
the animals
Think
you
about
raise.
Judaism,
Yeah.
Islam. Mhm.
And so there's some like health and wellness reasoning behind some of those clean, unclean, blah, blah, blah. But it also means that it dictates.
Think about Mormonism, caffeine.
Yeah.
Can't have any.
It's a little less
There's a lot of stuff with that.
logical in that sense where like when
But you
you
get a planet.
with Elohim. Yes. So we will recall once more a group project. So you don't know your classmates well. Imagine you're even randomly assigned, as I said before. You might have hated me as a teacher. And you're assigned to a group of strangers. You are tasked with developing the best possible sandwich.
Sandwich?
A sandwich, yes. Okay. Of all the groups in the class, you believe you have come up with the correct sandwich. It's turkey, provolone, mayonnaise, Dijon, pickles, sourdough bread. You have ample reasoning to believe you have the best sandwich because your group, luckily, finds those ingredients to be exemplary as compared to other options. When presenting, you enter into a debate with the other groups who have shockingly come up with entirely different elements to their sandwiches and labeled them superior to yours.
How dare they?
It's so offensive. One group's on keto and they decline the bread option altogether, eliciting groans and requiring them to sit out or participate in the right spirit. They were excluded.
Mm-hmm.
Religion is a sandwich. You may be able to form a group of people who like the sandwich you like, or you may adapt to the needs and wants of the group you are in, or you may rock the boat and create a whole new sandwich and draw others to your thinking. You may even inspire legions of followers based on your clever combination of rye and corned beef. But much like religion, the best sandwich is the wrong focus. Religion sets its sights so much on the right religion or the right way of being that what is lost is actually the point of everything. This is synonymous with politics. Politics sets its sight so much on the right side or the left side that what is lost is actually the point of everything.
Yep.
It's not even about making the sandwich like equitable, which is like a noble target to aim for. It's why we are driven to make the sandwich in the first place. Religion is about the desire to feed our souls. It's about a need to create faith structures so we can practice being outside of our fleshly forms. It's about all of our inside feelings expressing their reaction to our outside lives. Religion is about dialing back the perfunctory actions we do every day to wonder at the unknown with a hungry heart. Why are all of the ancient traditions based on wonder and awe? Why have ancient religious traditions focused on the use of reality suspending substances like psychedelics within their rituals?
Ayahuasca,
Exactly.
mushrooms.
Ayahuasca, mushrooms, mescaline, all of that, peyote, all of it. And the entire intent is not to escape, it is to move forward.
It's to gain to it. It's to find another level of spirituality.
It is to
That's what it is.
Exactly.
Not to like F the state.
Yes.
It's just like for the people that are using it for those spiritual purposes, it's just simply to find meaning.
It is.
That's it. That's all it is.
And the way you access things that you know are accessible and meaningful and meant for you is to suspend the painful memory of existence for a moment so that you can encounter reality without the burden of remembering.
Yep.
And that is, I mean, to me, that's probably birth, that's death, that's enlightenment, that's nirvana.
Well, what's amazing too is with all these clinical studies they're doing, it's really our society that and it's those in power that degrade the effects of this. I mean, many people like cancer, people that are very, very close to death, they experience psilocybin, ayahuasca, DMT experiences, and all of a sudden they're not afraid to die anymore. Like, what in the hell is wrong with that? What in the hell is wrong with giving somebody an experience where they're not afraid to die? Why should they be caged? What the hell did they do to anybody in society to where they should be locked up, prosecuted, thrown in jail, lose their family over having a spiritual experience? That is their spiritual experience. Your spiritual experience may be pushing cows up in the high country. Maybe that's your spiritual experience. I put you in jail for it? Did you hurt somebody doing it? What the hell business is it of mine? What the hell business is it of the state?
Yeah.
Nobody's. It's about control and money, and that's it.
Exactly.
That's what it's
And
always.
capitalizing on fear.
Yep.
It would be the very same thing if you and I went in a coffee shop and I was like, I'm not doing carbs right now. So everyone in front of me and behind me, you can't order a donut.
Yep. Or you'll go to jail.
Yeah, because
'Cause
my
I said it.
values are going to dictate your choices.
Because my dad's the president.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, see how religion gets so different than it's become when it's aimed properly away from being the right religion, the right political affiliation, the right level of wokeness, the right everything. So if I say the word, and I have historically hated this word, if I say obey, the tenor of authoritarianism rings through your psyche. I like get that stiff-necked people thing from the Bible. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do it. But if I say, do you hear that? You immediately prick up. Your ears are like tuned in. You may choose to follow something interesting. It's the difference between do this and look at this cool thing. How tragic that humans slip off the road of adventure for fear of someone prodding them toward it. It would be really easy to dream of religion without fear and pose that fearlessness is the purest state of religion and faith. That clearly slips like deeply into hubris, I think. But clear-eyed martyrs deep in our mind's eye create this like vision of the bold faithful generating endless quote scribbled decor on the aisles of Hobby Lobby, demanding we believe all that's needed in life is strong faith and equally strong coffee. But religion Faith is not about blindly blazing through life, holding white knuckle to the fact that we are on the right boat. You can't have faith without a healthy dose of fear. What a redundant, impossible endeavor. Faith without fear is believing that you're brave when you've never been frightened. Fear is faith's twin, always in conflict, always meeting one another in balance. When fear takes hold in the dark, faith says it'll be all right. When faith gets a little too bold and thinks she's invincible, fear wakes her up with truth and trials and helps her build resilience. I'm immediately thinking about like really unjust circumstances. It's a test, right? But we have to build up that resilience, because if we don't, we get soft and vapid and incapable of overcoming tribulations. And we also lose compassion. Faith is simply imagination, intense, focused imagination that through dogged adherence to principles that increase the goodness in life, we can find meaning. Meaning is, after all, the mother of happiness. And this is another one of those aimless principles that I really like, which is if you want to be happy, you have to stop trying to be happy. You have to instead find meaning, because the byproduct of meaning, happiness.
Yep.
Religions, when trying to be the right sort of religions, are terrible at marketing. Carrots and sticks of monumental sizes are used in creating fictions of horror for those out, and fantasies of utopic proportions for those that are in. I recently heard this, he's a Christian psychologist, and he was joking that he found Jesus when he was 8 years old, and it was largely because he went to a camp, and the camp counselor said, "Put your hands near this fire." And so the kids put their hands near the campfire, and he said, "Put them closer until it's too hot." So they put them closer until it's too hot. And then he said, "If you don't want to feel that forever and ever all over your body, believe in Jesus." And he was like, "So, I found Jesus that day. I figured it was fire protection." But yeah.
Really quick before it. So I saw a Facebook post of this dude, and it was just basically like, not everybody's going to go to heaven. Remember that a lot of the people that you look at will be in hell in 20 years, forever and all eternity. And I was like, like Jesus, I'm pretty sure did something in the book of John.
It's pretty crazy.
About like casting of stones, right? Mm-hmm. Like those without sin cast the first stone. Mm-hmm. When he was writing everybody's name down in the sand, or whatever he was doing. And I'm like, here you got this idiot on Facebook saying that everybody's going to go to hell unless they believe exactly how he believes and exactly how it's interpreted for him.
But he has the best sandwich.
Or else everybody else is going to hell.
Exactly.
And I was like, man, you really think highly of yourself, don't you?
Yep.
I mean, because like to make that kind of determination.
Yep.
That's
what always bothered me about pitying people who didn't believe like you.
Like, I'm not going to believe any human that's telling me what happens in the next world.
That's a principle that's woven throughout the New Testament that everybody also ignores, is this common grace. Mm-hmm. It is common grace, which is this wonderful, like both theological and philosophical and very Jesus-centered concept that is.
I would tell you right now that hunter-gatherers in the Amazon that have experienced DMT, ayahuasca, know more about the next world than a lot of these Christians and Catholics and Protestants.
I would guarantee you they have more interpersonal accountability as well. Yep. So, using fear as a motivator calls upon imagination, though, as a co-creator. And eventually, religion gets stuck in this cycle of ensuring we avoid what we fear by projecting those fears onto our fellow humans. Mm-hmm. I'm worried I'm going to go to hell, so you're going to go to hell for doing this thing. We always project that because we need a visible enemy, because that's essential for winning those invisible internal battles. At this point in the crest and fall of religion as a tool for understanding, the religious become cornered little dogs, shaking and full of needle-sharp teeth and ready to nip at anything, usually over Facebook. And they do everything they can to protect their fevered selves that find their identities threatened. It's to preserve a false sense of safety. Unimaginative, reactive fear puts asterisks on love. So when a religion says, love one another, Fear adds just not those ones. Religion is meant to disrupt patterns of oppression, not create and maintain those structures to protect the faithful. When religion prevents love, the faithful within it become tyrants.
100%. That's a great sentence. Say that again.
When religion prevents love, the faithful within it become tyrants.
Boom.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Religion's meant to put the brakes on survival for just a minute, to consider something larger than ourselves. It's meant to serve that part of our brains that wonder just how many times our child pooped today, and then leads us to marvel with a chuckle that we actually retain that information at all. It's meant to disrupt automaton
27.
actions, right? Well, I mean, how many meals do we have in a day? We know how many times Ike's gone. It's meant to disrupt those automaton actions, right? To leak sparkling imagination into a factory of tired hands and faces, to shake up our little snow globe lives in a frenzy of unanswered questions and hungry spirits. Fear and imagination live together in our hearts, because without both of them, we would have no desire to look up in wonder. Do you know that there are over 64 distinct verses in the Bible completely dedicated to encouraging human beings to encounter awe? Just to look up.
There's a lot of it, yeah.
There's so much, and it's all about
It's like a lot of that stuff is some of the most left out stuff there is.
It is.
It's discussed.
It totally is. Like, I mean, it's discounted. So much beauty is discounted because we have a preconceived notion of what it is. We would not be able to imagine Winnie the Pooh and Calvin and Hobbes philosophizing in the woods without fear and imagination, without religion as their co-piloted vehicle. We would never imagine a world better than it is right now. And that is the religion. It's not to be right. It's not to be the best. It's not to be the most impressive, the most original, the most traditional, the most preserved, the oldest, wisest, hippest, coolest, meanest, exclusive, best sandwich. The aim of religion has nothing to do with the ingredients or who gets to choose them. It's just to the side of those things. It's about why we have the desire to create those structures and processes and artifacts in the first place. It's not about the sandwich. It's about the hunger. Religion is about odd wonder. Dear, sweet, precocious child of fear and imagination, not a divisive weapon we leverage toward political rivals or to push agendas or to exclude those we deem unfit to commune with us. Religion is a tool of showing creation and our place within it. What a beautiful tool that could be.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
I'd like to know who your coward is.
That was really good. Good. Now I'm nervous. That's why I go first, people. I go first so I get myself out of the way.
So I go second, so you know what's going on. Instead of my highfalutin flippy.
That was really good. I really like and agree with that so much, because it's like just like this is what we're talking about with like Ukraine and other. It's like, listen, can we just like not hate each other so much?
Yeah, we take a minute and
not
not
talk
the world
so much shit
Yeah.
about other people all the time.
Exactly.
Like, can we just not do that?
Can we have some
Why
compassion
is that so freaking
and some
hard?
justice?
It's like
Yep.
That's what religion is supposed to be. I don't give a shit if you're Muslim. I don't give a shit if you're Jewish. I don't give a shit if you're Hindu or Catholic or Christian or Protestant or Mormon. If you're a good person, like I don't like that's all I care about.
Exactly.
Just be awesome. Like if you look at me and tell me I'm going to hell because I'm not Mormon, then I like the conversation's over. Peace out. Like our relationship's over.
Yeah.
It's completely over.
Because I'm less important
It's
to
like,
you
yeah.
than your ability
tell
to
you-
stave off fear.
Exactly. I've known interpreters overseas in Afghanistan, Iraq, other places,
Yep.
right? That were Muslim,
Yeah.
and I've never been Muslim. Don't adhere to Islam at all, any of that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of those guys over there that put their lives on the line, their families' lives on the line, their reputations on the line, like just the ability to exist on the line, like in their whole lineage, just for a belief in liberty and freedom. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And so you're not going to tell me that some Catholic at St. Columba in Durango, Colorado, that's never been out of Colorado is going to tell me who's going to hell and who's not going to hell, and not tell me that that guy is going to go to hell because he's a Muslim.
Yeah.
He hasn't experienced anything in his life. Nothing. No things besides his little pocket of awareness in that little area, which is fine. It's not like It's not a problem that that's how you exist and live.
You cannot have the donut, but when you
Yeah.
tell me I can't have the donut because you're not having the donut, we have a problem.
And this is what we talk about. This is what I talk about with laws and incarceration. I'm like, if you have not committed an act that has taken the rights away from another human being, the individual rights away, civil rights away from another human being, for the most part, it shouldn't freaking be illegal.
Yep.
I mean,
If you've not threatened anyone, you've not detracted from their safety or their livelihood.
yeah, it's like live and let live, man.
Yep.
Like, you know, I mean,
Totally.
I don't adhere to people that feel as if they read a book and now they know more than everybody.
Yep.
And it's like, who interpreted that book? You speak ancient Egyptian?
Mhm.
You speak Sumerian?
Mm-hmm.
Thousands of year old dead languages?
Yep.
Because if not, you're relying on other people's interpretations.
Yeah.
Other institutions' interpretations from thousands of years later. Why did they include this book? Why did they leave out all these other books? How come they don't talk about Yahweh's wife in the Old
Mhm.
Testament?
Or
When
the
there's
Book of
lots
Enoch.
in the Book of Enoch, when they talk
Mhm.
about all these other things. Oh, we just decided not to put it in there.
But it's God breathed. So we
just-
didn't do it. It was God breathed.
Just be a good
Yeah.
person, man.
Yep.
Like, just be good and
Yep.
quit judging people and quit talking shit. That's
Yeah.
it.
Adhere to what like actually your religious leader said, which across the board is usually peace, love.
Yeah,
Just love.
That's it, man.
Acceptance.
Come to the house, have
Yep.
some drinks, chill out, smoke
Yeah.
a little weed. Like, let's have a
Do
conversation.
you only have
I
water?
mean,
Boop, wine.
oh wow. Okay.
Sorry. Who's our coward?
Out of the week. All right. We've had a long, I'm not sure where we're at right now,
This is a longer one.
but it's a longer one. So I'm gonna kind of.
It's all right. They're in this far. They're in for it all.
All right. My coward of the week is any politician overtly willing to send men to war to fight and die for a cause that's justness is questionable at best. Okay. War should be a last resort. The result when all other attempts of resolution have failed. Young men are going to want to battle. We can't do anything about that, nor should we want to do anything to quell that. It's perfectly natural for that. However, older men and women with experience, especially our elders that are in political power, are acting like 10-year-old boys on a playground.
Mhm.
Escalation, escalation, escalation. Regular war is catastrophic on the individual, catastrophic on the indigenous peoples of the area, catastrophic on infrastructure, catastrophic on the economy, catastrophic on the male to female ratio of the affected areas. We talked like World War I, World War II, where some villages lost 100% of the men that were in those villages. 100%. Generational effects. World War I was bullshit. Bullshit. The Korean War was bullshit. Vietnam was bullshit. Desert Storm was bullshit. The global war on terrorism in Iraq was bullshit. The global war on terrorism in Afghanistan, just bullshit that it lasted over 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how we extracted from there.
Yeah. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of lives, millions if you add the indigenous peoples that were just sacrificed for nothingness, financial gain, or the appearance of justness.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that American citizens can now be targeted overseas without due process, as in losing their constitutional rights, they can be targeted and killed internationally now. It happened in the Obama era. I remember I was deployed when that first came out. When that came out that American citizens can now be targeted and killed overseas. Okay, I remember it. Especially now, since the definition of who is and who isn't an international or domestic terrorist varies depending on who's in office. January 6th.
Yeah.
Right now we have many members on the left saying that anybody who was at the Capitol at January 6th should lose all their constitutional rights and privileges. They're all insurrectionists. They should all be tried as traitors. There's a lot of people out there
That's tyranny.
that believe that.
That's tyranny.
So it's like, just remember, whatever power you give to one person rolls over to the next.
Yep.
Do I think that one needs to experience war in order to send young men and women into the grinder of the war machine?
I think so.
I didn't used to. I mean, but now after coming out of 20 years war and jumping headfirst into another one here that could be the end of the world, quite frankly. And that's not an exaggeration. Just do a little bit of like research on that. We talked about it on this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, nuclear war isn't localized.
many nations that are capable of dumping 100+ megaton nuclear weapons like it's nothing, right? But American politicians have a terrible track record of actually caring about the troops. Okay, as much as they talk about the troops, and we care about, like Mike Pompeo talking about classified documents and about, it's like, dude, you're a piece of shit. You sent men and women to die in combat for an unjust cause, and you knew it. Don't sit there on the TV and talk to me about righteousness and justness. Okay? Troops, money. Troops, money. Families with troops, money. It's tough. Tough call. I get it. It's really tough. It's a lot of money to be made out there in the military-industrial complex, without question. Now with Ukraine, it's like everyone's just thrown up the Ukrainian flag and forgotten about the lies of our past, just like Iraq not that long ago. It's like Americans and American politicians live their life as goldfish in 30-second intervals. My recommendation is this. If we must go to war with Russia, a potential World War III end of the world scenario, the first individuals deployed to combat, to battle, actual battle on the front lines, must be the sons and daughters of the politicians in power that voted for the war. If the cause is truly just, World War II kind of just, where actors, boxers, professionals dropped their gigs and went to war. If it's that kind of just, then neither the politicians nor their children should have a problem with that. However, if you're willing to send my sons to war and not your own children, then you're the enemy and you're a coward.
Well said.
That's it.
That's well said. It's true.
Yep.
I like to be the happy ending. Wait, that's
I like you
weird.
to be the happy
That's weird. Oh dear.
Don't worry, we won't cut that
Here
out.
I go.
And it's not like you were talking about swinging back and forth earlier either.
No, you weren't teasing me. All righty. So, hero of the week is actually thousands of people.
It's okay, this podcast is not for kids. I clicked
Click
not
not for kids.
kids on the part of it, so we're good. We're totally good.
It's fine. It's fine. All right. My heroes of the week are the thousands of people who gathered at Stonehenge this morning for the summer solstice. Waiting for hours in the darkness of the dawn, these humans from all walks of life gathered at a place that has been standing for at least minimum 5,000 years, just to welcome the summer and its brilliant, incredible first sunrise. These are my heroes because it didn't matter who they were, their religion, their identity, anything. They were doing the most spiritual thing I can think of, celebrating life and change and beauty together. There is no other way to celebrate the human experience than to be together with the explicit shared purpose of celebrating the gift of being alive.
That's beautiful. And I'll tell you what, like, honestly, when I think about the more and more, I mean, this is why I'm getting my PhD in history, because there's so much new discovery happening right now. Like, if you think of like all of these places from Indonesia and Turkey and the Middle East and South America, the Americas, they're finding out the Americas was peopled 1,000 years way before the land bridge. Like, you think about Snake Mountain, how that lines up perfectly with the solstices. You think about
or how it doesn't line up quite perfectly because it's been so long since it was created.
The Ice Age.
Yeah.
Probably created in the middle of the Ice Age, which means that it actually goes back. We're going into we're done at the age of Aquarius. We're about ready to go into the age of Aquarius, all right, when it comes to the constellations. But this is like, you can date those back to the middle of the freaking Ice Age. Like you think about Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, how they're lined up, it's the same thing. It's like, it is fascinating how these people were to take 80-ton megaliths, hunter-gatherers, hunter-gatherers, 80-ton megaliths, absolute precision.
Yep.
Absolute precision. You can't fit a freaking piece of paper between the rocks
Mhm.
from
Still.
thousands and thousands of years ago.
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm not saying aliens, people, but I am saying that there's we still have other stuff that we need to find out. There's a lot of stuff that we need to find out, and it's crazy cool and interesting. And so, yeah, the Stonehenge thing, that I wish we were there.
I do too.
Kind of make a living and shit.
Yeah. These darn kids. Ah!
Anyway, good
I
work.
love you.